Hi, everybody. My name's Kevin, and I'm just so glad Tessa put this thing together. And I'm glad that so many people showed up. I was thinking about it back there. It's either because you love the moon or you love her. Both good reasons. And Wild Montana. This is a very goofy story. I'm going to tell two because I am hungry for attention. The honest answer. This first one, it comes from Turkey, and it's where my wife is from. I love Turkey very much. There's this figure in storytelling in Turkey called Nasreddin Hoca. He's like a holy, wise man who's got like God put like too much holiness in him. So he's a little bit of like a wise fool, holy fool, this kind of character. And so this is a Nasreddin Hoca story. So he comes out of his house, it's like midnight. He, I don't know, had to pee or something, or he's going to wash his hands. He needed water from the well. And he goes to the well, and he looks down in the well. He's got his bucket. He looks down in his well. Oh, no. The moon is trapped in my well. Because you could see the reflection of the moon on the surface of the water. He was just like, oh, God, that's terrible. Not only is the moon gone forever, but if people find out she fell down my well, what are they going to think of me? And so he threw the bucket down there and he started to lift the moon out. And as he did, he couldn't find her and looked down the well. Shoot, she was still down in the well. Throws the bucket back down in the well, brings it up nice and slow. Dang it, she's still back down in the well. So he thinks, I know, she's falling out. Every time I put the bucket down, she's falling out. So this time, I'm going to do it really quick before she can fall out. He throws the bucket down the well, and he just gives it an all-holy yank. And just falls flat on his back, water straight down his shirt, covered in water, flat on his back in the grass. And he thinks to himself, well, I'm hurt, but at least I got the moon back up. It's a true story. It's a true story. But that's the thing about the moon, I feel like, is that like one of those cool things, it's like a real connector of people. Because if you look at it, you know, it's one of those things that you realize when you're like in middle school or high school, and you're like, dude, the moon is the same everywhere. We've all been looking at the same moon all this time. But it's like fridge magnets. Like sometimes it's really true. You know, like, where you're just like, oh yeah, that's true, that's true. I do have to hang on. Whatever it is. And it's like these storytelling kind of stuff too. Like this is something that's very old. And like the moon, super old. But like, it's still fresh. Like it's still here for us anytime we want it. So thanks for putting something like this together. It's very, very cool. You know, it's like the moon. It's like, come here, moon. And so this next story I'm going to tell is kind of an origin story of one of the many stories of the man in the moon. This is of this figure of a woodcutter carrying a heavy load with a little dog behind him up there in the moon. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. But the story starts out, this is a kind of European, I made most of it up to be honest. Because sometimes I don't like how these end. So I'll just change them. But this one's it's like European tradition, it's an English story. And it's very holy, you know, it's very holy. So this story starts out, there's this guy, he's like a young man. And he wakes up one morning and he realizes that like his covers don't fit on him anymore and his like feet are hanging out of the bed. He's like, oh, like gets out. He's kind of a teenager. He's like, my bed doesn't fit me anymore, Mom and Dad. I think it's time for me to go and find my way in the world. And he's like number 9 or 10. They can't really remember because they got so many kids. They're like, fine, great, go. Do your best to you. I can't remember your name, bye. And so he goes out to go wander and finds himself at the seaside. And there's a bunch of folks loading up onto this boat. And he's like, where's this boat go? And the guy's, oh, adventure awaits. Get on the boat. You can see the world. And so he's like, that's exactly what I'm here for. He climbs on the boat and slowly starts to realize he's just been conscripted into the army. And goes off to some, foreign place. To him, it's foreign. He fights in this war. He has to become a soldier and is brave and does what he's supposed to do and wins this great battle, and he's very brave, and there's a flag or something, and it's kind of messed him up a little bit. And it was a very dark night. There's no moon out. It's very, very dark, and so as everybody else is loading up back onto the ship, he kind of watches them go and thinks, maybe this is my chance to not be a part of that, and maybe I'll see what else is out there in this place that I am. And that's a really good attitude to have, but for him it didn't work out very good. He met a dog who became his traveling companion, but he ended up wandering this foreign to him land for many, many years with only his little dog and the moon as his guide up there, kind of reminding him that change is okay, things are flowing, we're going to be all right. But years and years pass, and he starts to look kind of ragged and wild, and he arrives to this town that's very prim and proper, sort of at the end of a very long road. And it's dark when he arrives, and so he gets under a little hawthorn tree and his little dog and gathers some sticks and starts a little fire, and as he's drifting off to sleep looking up at something. It was cloudy, couldn't see the moon at night. It was too cloudy. Started a little fire. You could just smell all these smells from the town. Smoke and meat and lizard yogurt and all those wonderful smells. And the next morning he set out, he's going to go find work. But before he does that, he's got to go to the well. So he goes to the well in the middle of the town. There's this lady. The moon is not trapped in this one. There's a lady. No. There's a lady. She's filling up her bucket, and he kind of gives her a little smile. And you know this sometimes, like she's kind of like she was not a good townsperson. She was a judgmental townsperson. And she took the bucket with her. She so he was like, oh, okay. So he goes to a baker. He follows his nose, goes to a baker, and he says, like, hey, pardon me, I don't have much, but I could work if you want me to sweep up for you, maybe in exchange for some bread. And the baker, similar kind of vibe. He was just like, I have a boy for that. Oh, the guy put it together like you all just did. Like, oh, you mean sweep. And so he goes, the baker was like, go to the mill. Maybe somebody at the mill can help you out. And so he goes to the mill. There's a farmer at the mill. He's unloading these big bags of grain. And the guy said, hey, maybe I could help you unload. You could give me a little something afterwards. I don't have very much, but I got, I can help. They unload this big cart full of grain into the mill. And after this long day of work, he's sort of like, wow, that was a lot of work, kind of expecting to get paid. The guy said, we come back, after the grain is all ground down, like a week or something, probably I'll have money for you. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. It's not a part of his plan. He should have got the contract from the beginning and looked at it. And so he's dejected. He feels bad. Like him and his little dog is happy, and that cheers him up a little bit. But he goes to bed second night in a row with no food. He's industrious. He goes kind of shivers and builds up another little fire. And he thinks to himself, I got this idea. I know what I'll do. In the morning, I'm going to gather sticks. I'm going to gather up a bunch of firewood. I'll go from house to house, and I'll see if anybody will feed me. Maybe somebody could, I don't know, give me a little housing. But, you know, we all know how this goes for you guys who are living rough. It's not easy to break through that barrier. And so he goes to bed that night, little dog by his side, looking up. You can see the moon now. Hopes and dreams. Big bright full moon. And the next morning he gets up and just starts gathering these big bundles of sticks. Big bundles of sticks together under the tree. And the church bells ring. Dun, dun, ding, dong, ding, dong, ding. And that lady from the well sort of walks by and like looks at what he's doing. Goes up to the church, and more people start going up to the church, kind of giving him little, you know, he's just like working there, and just kind of giving him little head shakes and whispers. And there's a big group of people outside that church looking at him, talking a little bit, looking at him, talking a little bit. Church bells ring, they go in. This very nicely dressed guy comes running out like that, you know. Friend. Today is the Lord's Day, actually. Today's not a day for work. Put your sticks down, and you can start, you know, start your work up tomorrow. Today's a day for rest. And the guy is like, you have nowhere to rest. I won't stop. Sir, friend. Today is the day for us to rest. It's the Sabbath. You stop working now, and you can pick this up tomorrow. And the guy says, tomorrow will not feed me. I will not stop. This guy's like flush red, like, oh. Never encountered somebody who would like not, you know, cower to this authority, because in this town they treated this rule very seriously. This guy goes to church. Our guy did not stop working. He gathered up some more big bundles of sticks just in time for church to get out, and that group of people to sort of walk by him. And much like how you all are staring at me, they kind of gathered around him like that and whispered at him, and he couldn't quite make out what they were saying. They were talking to each other, but at that point a decision was made. And they decided that once the sun went down, that once the workday was over, that they had work to do. And so that day, it was cold. He went from door to door, knocking on these doors, saying, "Hey, I've got these sticks. Would you pay me something for them, or maybe I could stay?" And they said, "Hey, that's trade. Trade is work. We don't work on a Sunday." Door after door, he faced this same response. And that night, once the sun had gone down, they gathered around that tree that he was at and kind of hemmed him in and squeezed him in, and started picking up stones and gathering them around him tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. And it was at that point that this something in the air shifted, and the wind picked up, blew dust out of all the door frames, and the town was just flooded with moonlight. And the moon had come closer, like a bowl, like a silver bowl dipping down into water. the moon had come closer and just said, enough. And she reached out this silvery arm, which in this case looked like a staircase made of glass. And she invited the man with his bundle of sticks up to come up with her. And she said, I'm tired of seeing the world turn away from people like this. And she invited him up onto the surface of the moon. And his little dog, like, went straight up there, not far behind him. And they stood up there as a kind of silent reminder. And in that place where that happened, the moon felt a lot closer. And sometimes the moon does feel kind of closer to you. Kind of like, oh, and it always, you feel like it's telling you something, you know, like, whoa. And in this town, it definitely was telling them that. But it's not just that town, because even now, on a full moon, like tomorrow, dogs will bark at that full moon, and not because they're afraid or because they're sad, but because they remember the man who worked on Sunday and his little